The Collapse video series is for entertainment purposes only. Do not commit acts of violence. Day 21. Groups of people leaving the suburbs and setting out on foot have been walking for 7 days. An adult in good health with proper footwear and provisions can hike 20 miles a day for many days in a row without succumbing to exhaustion. However, many of these people are walking in shoes made more for fashion than function. Their feet are blistered and raw. They are bringing children with them who keep stopping because they are tired, and they are angry at their parents for what they are going through. They have to keep leaving the roads to look for water. They don't have food, and the hiking is burning calories. At night, if they can find an abandoned car to sleep in, they feel lucky. Even then, they don't sleep well. Morale is low. The lack of calories makes physical exertion of any sort more difficult every day. They can barely traverse 10 miles a day, sometimes less. After an exhausting week, they are only an hour's drive from their starting point. Shortages of food and clean water are not the only important shortages. People are running out of their essential medication. Most medications are given in 30-day increments. After 3 weeks, nearly 3/4 of the people are out. For some, this is fatal. The insulin-dependent are dying. For others, the absence of the medication isn't fatal, but the condition it was treating will no longer be controlled, and there could be some withdrawal. In the US, 1 in 6 adults is on medication for mental health, with antidepressants being the most common. Suddenly stopping the medication causes side effects such as flu-like symptoms and worsening depression. But the larger problem is the people who become psychotic when they come off of their psychiatric medications. In the cities, with the police and National Guard gone, groups of marauders have formed. They have been scavenging from empty homes as well as robbing anyone who failed to depart already. They thought there would never be an end to what they could take from the mostly abandoned city. They were wrong. They are running out of food. While 2/3 of the city has departed, 1/3 is still there. They ran out of food in their own homes 2 weeks ago, and the National Guard stopped bringing in supplies 10 days ago. While many abandoned apartments and homes still have non-perishables, because people left the city thinking the power would come back on and they would return, all of the perishable food in refrigerators and freezers spoiled weeks ago. The marauders have noticed that they are having to radiate out further each week to hit homes they haven't already pilfered. The more intelligent among the marauders realize that scavenging for food in the city can't go on for much longer. They start scavenging for paper maps and start planning to leave the city. Delegations from small towns agree to conference and form networks for information and defense. They don't have to get reports from the city to know what's happening. Marauders will be arriving from the cities eventually. The people in rural areas are stretched thin across the countryside. Defending against a large attack will be difficult. This is why information and coordination are essential. They know the marauding gangs are coming, but they don't know when and where. However, the large marauding gangs will be easy to spot on the empty country roads. Reconnaissance agents are chosen by their physical fitness, skills needed to survive in the woods, and their diplomatic skills. They will need diplomacy in order to pass through other towns that don't want outsiders and get information from them. The recon agents are deployed immediately. In the meantime, the towns begin recruiting, organizing, and training local militias. In Washington, D.C. and Ottawa, the local power stations are online and providing electricity to government buildings. Connections are slowly being made to the homes of government officials in order of how prominent the official is and how close his home is to the power station. With their own electricity restored, they begin plans to build new transformers for the grid. One of the challenges is that transformers are normally customized for a particular substation. Building them requires highly specialized equipment and highly skilled workers who know what they are doing. They also require electricity to build. To make matters worse, the factories where the transformers are built do not have the capacity to rebuild all of the destroyed transformers at the same time. They usually only build a few per year. In fact, a lot of the transformers for North America are built in Europe and Asia. Officials decide that is not practical now. They will all have to be built here. It will take time. With stockpiling of food going on globally, the governments of India, Pakistan, and Indonesia are trying to stop the export of foods. They all quickly pass laws making it illegal to export any food until the emergency is over. But those governments have poor control. When people are caught, the consequences are severe, but the potential profits are great at a time when there are suddenly not a lot of ways to make a profit. Oil-rich countries such as Saudi Arabia and Russia have money to spend due to the increase in oil prices. They pay top dollar to import food. Not only are recent crops being moved, so are the non-perishables that were being held in warehouses. The police seize the warehouses only to have their efforts thwarted by corrupt, enterprising government officials who sell the supplies on the black market and claim organized crime units stole the supplies. In a short period of time, India, Pakistan, and Indonesia only have enough food for 90% of their population. But it won't be 90% having enough and 10% having none. The shortage will be distributed among a large portion of the poor population. It may be half having enough and the other 900 million people consuming 80% of what they normally consume and being very disgruntled about it. In China, the mood among the people is very tense. For the moment, they are not short on food or oil, as China produces plenty of both, and the reduction in manufacturing means the amount of oil they produce meets demand. But the global economic collapse has led to high unemployment rates. Even though the government is issuing unemployment payments to the people, there is a general understanding that the factory closures are permanent, the government can't give unemployment payments indefinitely, and no long-term solution has been proposed. The government of China begins eyeing Taiwan, partially because it wants to distract the people from the economic crisis, and partially because Taiwan has always been a major interest of China. The small island nation of Taiwan was once part of China. At the end of the Chinese Civil War, the wealthy fled to Taiwan with their wealth and declared independence. China has never recognized that independence, but was prevented by the United States from recapturing Taiwan. That's not to say Taiwan is defenseless now without the US. It spends $10 billion per year on defense. Among its arsenal are sea mines that it plans to deploy in the ocean if necessary. Because of those sea mines, China decides that recapturing the island with a direct attack would be imprudent. China instead engages in a blockade. It sends its navy into waters just outside of Taiwan's legal ocean territory. No ships may pass. Taiwan had planned its defense around defense. Preventing an invasion is completely different from launching an attack. Sea mines are good for the former, but not the latter. They certainly don't want to mine shipping channels. The blockade will work, and the Taiwan government knows it. In the immediate post-collapse era, blockades are rapidly becoming a popular tool of international conflict. In Europe, gasoline prices come down as the countries of OPEC increase oil production, following negotiations with the protector making subsidies unnecessary. Low-interest loans from the European Central Bank to private banks have stabilized the banking industry. And the bulk purchase of goods and parts from Asia negotiated by the protector have reduced the cost of goods in the market. But not all industries were rescued by these moves. For example, the tourist industry, which employs about 9% of Europeans, has been decimated. And all the manufacturers that use parts from Asia are worried about what will happen when the recently acquired parts run out. For the immediate term, unemployment benefits will be increased, and all adult citizens of the European Union will be issued an economic stimulus check in the amount of 1,000 euros. For the long term, the protector announces that Europe will become self-reliant. All parts of the supply chain for essential products will be made in Europe. Those who are unemployed now will be hired to work in the new businesses created in the Self-reliance initiative. Those creating these businesses will be issued loans and grants to get started. Existing businesses will be eligible for loans and grants to expand their operations. In order to ensure that the funds are not misused, all businesses receiving the loans and grants must provide the government regulatory bodies the passwords to their online financial accounting software and their business email. If you would like to see an ad-free version of these videos, go to my BitChute or Brighteon page. Even with the ads, there is not nearly enough revenue to support continued production of the series. Please consider supporting me on Subscribestar or click on the PayPal link in the description.